Yo, 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 welcome back to another installment of the Who Asked Y'all To podcast, best podcast out right now, featuring two best hosts out right now.
Yes, sir.
Myself,
Yes,
as
sir.
always, Chris Porter. As y'all can see, my good brother stepping out for just a brief second. M.
Back,
Dot,
back,
as
back.
always, back for another episode of the Who Asked Y'all To podcast. How you feeling today, brother? How's everything been going with you, man?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. I had the flu. God dang, it had to be like the flu like a couple weeks ago. And that pretty much
Yeah.
took me out. Then the kids were sick. Then Judea got sick, and it's just like a revolving door. Once somebody gets sick, somebody gets sick, somebody gets sick, somebody gets sick. So, but other than that, we doing good, bro. No issues, nothing like that. What about yourself?
I'm good, man. I can't complain. You know, going through the going through the ebbs and flows every day,
Right.
revolving door cycle sometimes, man. I've been going through a lot personally, but thugging through it as always.
Yeah.
The weather broke this past weekend and that was
Yes. That
beautiful.
was really nice. Really
Was
nice.
happy to get some good weather. Got to take my puppy out to the park and get her out there. Did have me missing my other puppy. Shout out to Ozzy. Shout out to his mom. But yeah, man, it was great to get out there and enjoy the beautiful weather. It sucks that it got a little bit nasty today, but you
Yeah.
know, happy to see the sun out for an extended period of time in 60-degree weather, man. So feeling good, man. Feeling good.
Absolutely good, bro. Good. And good on you for getting out and getting in the sun with the dogs, man. That's something I gotta do. I haven't done that in a while. I gotta definitely do that, and I gotta get back in the gym, man. I'm on a little hiatus
Me
from
and
the
you
gym
both, man.
because I was sick, but now I'm trying to get back to it. And I can feel my body just getting sluggish and weak, and just not being the man that I need to be. So I gotta get back on that. Gotta get back on that.
Yo, we ain't gonna go off on a tangent, but hey, listen. Make sure you staying on top of your health. That's all I'm gonna
Oh
say,
yeah,
man.
absolutely, absolutely.
As we get older in this thing, it's important to be on top of your health. Make sure you're going to see your doctors regularly. Make sure you're getting checkups, man. Just make sure you stay on top of stuff, because you know your body is this is the only body we gonna get in this
Yeah,
lifetime. You know what I mean? So be mindful of what you put in your body. Be mindful of what comes out of your body. Like you know, just
yeah,
be on top of it for sure. For
absolutely.
everybody. For everybody.
No, absolutely, bro. And I definitely was going to talk more about it, but we're going to skip that. We'll bring it to another podcast when we talk about health and wealth and mental health. All right, so today, audience, we got a jam-packed episode. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. So many things have happened since our last meetup, since our last podcast. So we're going to discuss Trump. Haha. So big Trump. Shout out to Trump too. He dropped them sneakers. Everybody bought them, $400 a pop. He sold them things out within 20 minutes. So shout out to Trump for doing that. But
Shout out to
Trump,
y'all if y'all bought them.
Trump, as anybody may know, he was battling, being removed off the Colorado ballot, being removed off a couple other states as well from the ballot to be voted as the primary. So the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 into Trump's favor. So now he can be put back on the state ballot. The state does not have jurisdiction to take him off the ballot. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Russell Wilson, um, aka, Russ. We're going to talk about him. He just was released from the Denver Broncos. I, I think a lot of people seen this coming. I don't know who didn't, but I think
Yeah.
many people have seen this coming. Then we're going to transition. We're going to talk about Shannon Sharp, aka Uncle Shay Shay. We're going to talk about him and the media headlines he's been gaining, all the attention he's been gaining, and just his podcast and the flow of it and how it's been going so far. And then lastly, we're going to switch into wrestling, and we're going to discuss the Bloodline, aka Roman Reigns, Tribal Chief, aka The Rock, aka Uso, aka Solo. We're gonna talk about them, and shout out to Paul Heyman. We're gonna talk about them. Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins may be the matchup for WrestleMania, which we talked about. If you guys pay attention to the episode, I talked about they need to do a tag match between the Bloodline, Cody, and Seth Rollins, and lo and behold, WWE's listening to the fans for some odd reason. So that kind of looks good. But to get started, Trump, like we talked about, Trump has won in the Supreme Court 9-0. Now, a lot of people are saying, "Oh my God, how did he win 9-0?" Because all the Supreme Court justices feel as though that it would be unconstitutional for him to be removed from the state ballots on a federal issue. Now, what federal issue are you talking about? I'm talking about the issue of insurrection. Insurrection goes against the Constitution, which the Constitution is a federal government document which the federal government has jurisdiction over. The state government cannot overstep or oversee and rule against a federal crime or a federal issue just because they're the state government. They cannot do that. So the Supreme Court, with the conservative Supreme Court justices, the liberal Supreme Court justices, and the moderate Supreme Court justices, all ruled for that Donald Trump cannot be removed off of the state ballots. CP, how do you feel about that?
It's I like seeing stuff come full circle. And not that I don't truthfully care about the story or anything like that. I just like seeing topics that we've discussed come full circle, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But that aside, I think that we, speaking on us talking about it previously, having these conversations on here, I think that we at least predicted that that this was going to get overturned in the Supreme Court. We talked about the precedent that it was set for states if they were left with the power of being able to determine who gets to run for an election based on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. So it's not surprising. I don't think. I think you might. I gotta go back and watch, but I think you might have mentioned him possibly getting a unanimous decision. I didn't
Yeah.
predict a unanimous decision, but I definitely wasn't surprised by the decision ultimately. And reading up on it, familiarizing myself with it, and trying to understand it as good as I could. I think the decision ultimately makes sense. Congress should be the people who ultimately decide whether or not somebody in this circumstance is deemed eligible based off of possibly violations of the of the Constitution. So no surprise. Ultimately, the ruling kind of makes sense. It kind of goes with what was to be expected. So I'm glad that I'm glad that we could start moving things forward. In a sense, I think things was already moving. Everything is moving every single day, but it's good that there's some resolution. Trump already has a bunch of other things that got to get resolved, or ideally we would like to see resolved before the election in November. So we'll see how those things pick up steam, if they end up picking up steam or not. But for this, it's good to see a ruling now. No surprise in the ruling, and so it's good to be able to move forward.
Absolutely, I agree with you, bro. I think, like you said, it's good to see things finally come to a head. Finally, see them come full circle. And yeah, I do remember that. I think when we did discuss it last time, I think you had a more of a vote of like a 6-3,
Yeah.
where it was still going to rule in the Trump's favor, but it was kind of going to be some opposition. But I think I kind of felt like there wasn't going to be any opposition because of the fact that like if they would have done that, it would have set a unknown precedent. It would have set a precedence of like, oh well, the state government can overrule the federal government due to X, Y, and Z. Where it's like you can't really do that. And people will say, oh well, they had 3 liberal justices, and they had some conservative. And I really don't think that kind of matters at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, the justices are supposed to do what's right for America, what's right for the Constitution, what's upheld by the law, irregardless of their social politics or how they kind of where they sway in all this. I think it just matters as to like, has he been convicted of insurrection? No. should we allow the state government to have a jurisdiction over the federal government due to he may or may not have committed insurrection? No. Can the state government overrule the federal government? No. So if all those questions are no, then there's no possible way that you can say with clear, cold hearted, like, oh, well, then he shouldn't be on the state ballot because he may or may not have been involved in the insurrection. I mean, no, he hasn't been convicted of anything. He hasn't been charged. So you can't
Right.
say that, oh, well, because I'm a liberal or because I'm conservative. No, you have to vote as to what the law says. And I'm glad they did it that way. I'm glad because somebody hasn't been convicted. They didn't set a precedent, and they allowed the justice system to play out the way it was supposed to. Because sometimes they bring too much politics into the Supreme Court where it shouldn't even be any politics in it. It shouldn't be. They should be. They're non-biased. So because they shouldn't have any of those influences because it influences their decision. So every time we attach politics to the Supreme Court justice, that's a place where there shouldn't be any biases because they're supposed to go with the accordance of the law. That's it. There's no because he's this because no. It has to go in accordance with the law. So I'm glad it went the way it did.
I mean, and this ultimately, like, I think this came just like to some of the points that you made. This just came down to like a jurisdiction thing, like with a lot of things, like who has the jurisdiction to do what. And it's not to say that the states are wrong and feeling as though that Trump played a part in insurrection. It's just that jurisdiction wise, the jurisdiction can't be left, like you mentioned, in the state government hands with something that's a federal government decision. So
Right.
if it's something that needs to be played now, I mean, it wasn't just complete unanimousness all across the board in terms of every decision that came out in the Supreme Court. People can look into that a little bit more if you like, but all of the justices didn't agree with the totality of the Supreme Court's ruling as far as the Supreme Court laying out that the decision has to be made through Congress. However, when it comes down to it, it's just a matter of if the rightful place is for this to be resolved in Congress, where it should have been resolved up to this point already. It kind of was in a way with impeachment, even though that it was the reason for not impeaching was ridiculous in my opinion. But that's neither here nor
Right.
there. We're not going to get into that. This should have been resolved in Congress. There shouldn't be something that in election season is being decided by the state in the middle of the election. So, like you said, when you take your personal politics out of it, and when you just look at it as a whole, as a democratic system, then of course you don't want to just leave it up to an individual government. You want to leave it up to the entire controlling body of government. So, like we both said, great to get some resolution though. Great to move
Absolutely.
things forward at the end of the day.